Once upon a time, in a great kingdom of Azubike, lived a man named Chinonso. A few years ago, Chinonso borrowed a huge sum of money from his friend Kelechi, promising to pay back in a few years' time. But not long afterwards, war broke out between their villages and the neighboring village. Following the war, Chinonso never saw his friend Kelechi again. He searched around, but Kelechi was nowhere to be found. He asked other villagers, but everyone seemed oblivious about Kelechi's whereabouts. Some even suggested that Kelechi might be dead, and this was a sad and trying time for Chinonso, as he hoped that his friend Kelechi could still be alive somewhere. But as the years went by, Chinonso decided to get married, and he got married to a beautiful woman named Amara. She was the daughter of a businessman in one of the neighboring village, and Kelechi, before the war, had come to ask for Amara's hand in marriage. But the day he came to ask for her hand in marriage, that was the day the war broke out. And as Kelechi was about to convince Amara and her father, they saw people running for their life, and that ended the conversation. As they were running out, Kelechi turned to Amara and asked, "Come with me, let's get married and I'll take care of you." But her sister nodded to her and told her no, and she told Kelechi no. And this made him angry, and they ran their different ways. As Amara was running, some dangerous men caught up with her, but before they could harm her, Chinonso came and saved her from the hands of these dangerous men. After the war, Amara's parents did not survive except her and her younger sister Amaka. Kelechi returned to continue pleading with Amara to ask for her hand in marriage, but her sister warned her that Kelechi was an evil man. Hence, Amara refused the second time. Kelechi was not happy and left for good. When the war was finally over and everyone had reconnected, there was no one to help Amara and her sister, and Chinonso learnt of this and started taking care of her. Eventually, he fell in love with her and asked for her hand in marriage, and she happily agreed with her sister's consent. They got married, and Amara moved into Chinonso's home with her sister Amaka. After a few months, Amara got pregnant and gave birth to a very beautiful girl named Chika. There was something unique about Amara and her family that she did not tell her husband Chinonso. All of them in Amara's family had a unique gift which they had no power to choose over. For Amara's father, anything he touched, he would succeed as a businessman. For her mother, she was the best cook in the entire village that no one could match her food. For Amaka, Amara's sister, she could read people's minds. While Amara, her case was different. After childbirth, she will shrink in size until she becomes a baby and died off. When Chinonso eventually learnt of these gifts that they had and learnt of the type that Amara had, he was so sad that he couldn't do anything to help her. Eventually, Amara started becoming small and small and smaller, and this broke Chinonso's heart as he couldn't see his beautiful wife becoming so small until she became a baby. Then tragedy struck the household. A few years later, Amara died of a brief illness as a baby, leaving her daughter with no mother. But before she died, she pleaded with her husband Chinonso and her sister Amaka that if anything would happen to her, they should marry each other. Chinonso and Amaka were shocked at her request, and this was a sad occasion for all of them because they knew Amara's time was drawing close until eventually she died. Marrying Amaka was Amara's dying wish, so Chinonso, after burying his beloved wife, decided to respect his wife's wishes and decided to ask Amaka hand in marriage. He called Amaka one day and informed her if she was still willing to go ahead with her late sister's dying wish. Amaka looked into Chinonso's heart and saw that he was a good man and decided to marry him. And not only that, but because her sister begged her and she wanted to fulfill the promise. So after a careful thought and consideration, she decided to marry Chinonso. Chika, Amaka's niece and now her new daughter, was still very young at that time. She grew up knowing Amaka as her mother. Amaka eventually got pregnant and gave birth to twins girls named Nenna and Ineka. They all grew up as sisters. Amaka treated all of them the same way, and there was no difference in the way she treated Chika and her daughters. Eventually, Chika had grown into a very beautiful girl just like her late mother Amara. But she also had the unique gifts. Her own gift was to play the musical instrument so well that it shocked the villagers on how she was able to play this instrument of her choice without ever practicing for one day. But her family knew how she got this unique gift. One evening, Chinonso was returning home when he received the shock of his life. His beautiful daughter walked up to him before he got home and informed him that a strange man named Kelechi was waiting for him in their living room. And true to his daughter's words, as Chinonso stepped into his house, he saw his friend Kelechi standing in the middle of the living room. Chinonso could not believe his eyes. As he approached Kelechi asking where he had been all these years, Kelechi responded to his greeting and went straight into the business of why he was there. Kelechi was more concerned about the money he borrowed Chinonso before the war broke out many years ago. Chinonso explained to Kelechi that he had spent all the money during the war and had no money currently to repay, as business was not moving as before. He pleaded with Kelechi to give him some time to repay the debts. And before you knew it, they were facing each other, arm folded, and looking at each other angrily. As they were talking, Chika came into the living room and met them angry at each other. She could sense the tension in the air and wondered why this strange-looking man was angry with her father. After a few minutes, the man left, but her father was still in the living room, agitated with his arm folded. And Chika walked up to her father and asked her father what the problem was. He just smiled at her, assuring her that there was no problem. Although Chika pretended to believe her father, but she was not convinced by his response. As the day went by, Chinonso began to think a lot. Whether he was lying down on bed resting, he was thinking, or sitting down outside taking fresh air, he was thinking. And Chika noticed that the thinking increased the more as this strange man came to visit her father. She wondered what the whole issue was all about and why it made her father worry so much. Chika set out one afternoon without telling anyone where she was going. And when night came, Chika had not returned. Her family was so worried that they set out in search for her, but she was nowhere to be found. Days passed, and no one had seen or heard from Chika, and then months and even years. And Chika's father was so sad, and this made him to start thinking, and thinking now became his normal way of life. The burden of thinking had begun to take a toll on his health, and all he hoped and wished for was to see his daughter again before he died. Then years later, a messenger came with a bag full of money for Chinonso, and this continued every month. Then one day he decided to ask the messenger, who sent him with this bag of money to him? The messenger just smiled and said nothing. But somehow Chinonso felt that his beautiful daughter Chika had a hand in this and could not understand why she had disappeared. It had been 5 years since the disappearance of Chika, and her father was still hopeful that one day she would definitely return. Meanwhile, Chika's sisters had gotten married and moved out of the house, leaving only Chinonso and his wife Amaka. One evening, while Chinonso and Amaka were sitting outside enjoying the evening, they saw someone that looked like Chika coming. And then it was really Chika. She had returned. And her father Chinonso could not believe his eyes, even his wife Amaka. They were in shock, for it has been 5 years since they saw Chika last. Tears of joy welled up as they reconnected. Chika could not believe the state of her father's health, as he had grown really old. Amaka then asked Chika where she had been all these years, and then they went inside, and Chika began to tell them her story. She revealed that on the day she did not return, she went out in search of Kelechi, the man her father owed a great debt. She asked around for Kelechi after walking from one village to the other, and she was directed to the next neighboring village where he lived. When she got to Kelechi's house, she met Kelechi, who laughed and said to her, "So your father agreed to send you to me after all?" Chika was confused and asked Kelechi what he was talking about. It was then Kelechi revealed to her that her father, Chinonso, owed him a huge amount of money and was unable to pay it. And then Kelechi told Chinonso to offer Chika to come work for him for 5 years as a means of repaying that debt. But her father refused and instead offered himself. And Kelechi was not happy with this and said he will come back for Chika. When Chika heard this, she was heartbroken as everything began to make more sense to her. Chika then asked Kelechi how long she would have to work for him to repay her father's debt. And Kelechi revealed that the debt was so huge and it would require 5 years of service from her. Chika's heart sank as she could not imagine being away from her family for 5 years. She pleaded with Kelechi to permit her to go home and tell her father of her decision. But Kelechi refused, saying if she returns home, her serving time will increase from 5 years to 10, and she will also be forced to become his wife. Upon hearing this, Chika was short of words. She did not know what to do, and then she decided to begin her 5 years journey of repaying her father's debt. She became Kelechi's captive, working tirelessly and barely getting any rest. She would wash, she will cook, she will clean, that she will get so tired. Her only motivation was the fact that her father's debt would be repaid after 5 years. One day, 3 years into her serving time, Kelechi's only son Obinna fell terribly ill. There was no treatment that was working for him, as Kelechi had taken him to several doctors, but there was no treatment, and Kelechi was so afraid that he was going to lose his only son, and Obinna was his only successor. Kelechi was ready to do anything to save Obinna's life. One night, as Chika was asleep, she saw a very beautiful woman in her dream. The woman revealed that her name was Amara and that she was her mother. Amara told Chika that she had great powers that she had not yet tapped into. She revealed that it was Chika's power that made her possible to play the musical instrument without ever practicing for one day, and that they had special powers that ran through their family. Amara then told her daughter to go into the farm to look for certain herbs and mix them and drink them, and that her power would be unleashed. She then told Chika to take care of herself and then disappeared. Chika was confused when she woke up in the morning. She could not believe that she finally had the chance to see her mother again. Then she went into the farm, plucked some herb, went into the kitchen, prepared them, and drank it. After drinking it, she felt an unusual sensation all over her body, and a bright light emanated from her body and then disappeared. Chika knew at that point that her powers had been activated. She then approached Kelechi and told him of her ability to heal his son. At first, Kelechi did not believe. Then Chika went on to tell Kelechi that if she succeed in healing Obinna, that Kelechi must grant her an early release and complete cancellation of all her father's debts. Kelechi looked at her in shock, but he was desperate for anything so long as his son was going to be fine. And then he agreed. She stepped close to him and placed her hand on Obinna's body, and a bright light emanated from her into Kelechi's son's body. And miraculously, Obinna regains his health, and Kelechi's eyes shone in amazement. Kelechi then promised Chika an early release the next morning. Chika was happy as she retired to bed, very happy. She could not wait to see her family after all this while. In the morning, when Chika went to meet Kelechi to facilitate her release, Kelechi laughed wickedly and said, "You are not going anywhere." Chika was in shock as she reminded him of his promise to her the previous day. It was then that Kelechi revealed his reason on why he decided to punish her. He said to her, "Many years ago, I was in love with your mother, Amara. And before the war broke out, I asked your mother to marry me, and she refused. Your mother now, Amaka, told your mother not to marry me. I returned again and asked her, and she still refused. But I don't know what your father gave to her, and just with the twinkle of an eye, she agreed to marry your father. And that is why I am angry, and I said he will pay. And then I left the village and disappeared for good." Kelechi further revealed that he could not stand the sight of Amara being married to Chinonso, and that's why he decided to take a revenge on her by keeping Chika away from him. Chika was shocked. Then Kelechi dragged Chika and locked her up in an old dirty room. Chika wept and pleaded with Kelechi, but Kelechi was so ruthless that he had no mercy on her, for his mind had gone so deep and dirty with revenge. For months, Chika was locked up in the room, only given food once a day. This continued until one fateful day, Chika heard a sound at the door. She looked up in anticipation and saw a woman. It was Kelechi's wife. She came in and then held Chika and said, "My husband, Kelechi, is very sick, and I heard how you healed our son Obina when I was away. Could you do the same thing?" Chika refused, and then Kelechi's wife threatened to punish Chika if she did not. And then she forcefully pulled at Chika. As she did that, a strange energy passed from Chika's body into Kelechi's wife's body that she screamed in pain and landed on the floor. Then Chika took the opportunity to leave the room out of the house. On her way out of the house, she saw Kelechi on the couch, lying in pain as he stretched out his hand begging Chika to heal him. Chika refused as she knew he would never keep to his promises. It was then Obina stepped out in tears, begging Chika to heal her father. And then Chika looked at Obina and said, "You know I had done this once for you and your father did not keep to his promise. But this time I will only do this on one condition. You will give me 2 bags of money, and when I had finished, when I finish, I will leave here in peace." Obina agreed and gave her 2 bags of money. Then she dropped one in front of Kelechi and said, "This is the money my father owes you, and this is my own for healing you." And then she stepped front, placed her hand on Kelechi, and he got healed. Then she turned to walk away. As she turned to walk away, Kelechi had not learnt the lesson. He jumped up and grabbed Chika. But as soon as he did that, a force flung him against the wall and he hit his back and broke it. Obina was in shock at the light and energy that came out from Chika, and he stepped back in fear, for he did not want to die or face the same fate that his father had just faced. Then Chika left and disappeared. She ventured into another village and started a business on her own and did not want anyone to know who she was and the powers that she had. She eventually became a very successful businesswoman, and every month's end she would send a messenger to give her father some money. After she had made a name and wealth for herself, she decided to return home. After the story, Chinonso was in tears, for he knew that it was his past behavior that made him to lose his daughter. But now she had returned. Tears of joy flowed down Chinonso's cheek as Chika narrated the whole story to her family that night. They were in shock at Kelechi's behavior. Chika's father promised her that he will make up for all the lost years, and Chika decided to return back and stay permanently with her family. She used her power and money to serve her village and to take care of her family.